Bienvenidos, aloha, welcome in to Sunset Rewind. We continue to roll along as Sailor Rewind as the Newport Harbor Sailors win again their first CIF title since 2005. Last night they beat the Temecula Valley Golden Bears 42-35 on the road at Temecula Valley High School for the Division VI CIF Southern Section Championship. Howard, it wasn't just a win. It was an absolutely insane win, a crazy comeback, a game that had a little bit of everything. Sailors were down 21-0 early in the second quarter. They were down 28-7. You and I were sitting there. We were calling the game on Tar Radio, and we were looking at each other like, man, this is not just a long drive back to OC, home from Temecula. For us, a lot of parents came, a lot of players came, and they came back and won. It was crazy, man. It was really crazy.
Well, 21-0 with basically 3 quarters of football left. It felt like this is going to get to a running clock. This is going to be a blowout. It was a great run for Newport Harbor. We'll be happy we made it to the finals, and we'll live with that. But the Sailors obviously had way more confidence in themselves. I know we're going to get into the details of the game, but it had to be a 99% chance that the Sailors were going to lose the game at that point, down 21-0. So to stick with it, to persevere, it was just so impressive. I'm so proud of this group. To watch their maturity and their growth before our eyes has been such a pleasure. So happy for this coaching staff and just everybody involved with Newport Harbor. They're representing the Sunset League so well, and shout out to the Sailors.
Like I said, the Newport Harbor faithful, a lot of them made the long trip down the 91, down the 15, out to Temecula from the 949. Here was the scene at Temecula Valley High School after the game.
Just seeing that genuine excitement on these guys' faces. I mean, you're seeing kids jumping up and down, everybody's chest bumping, parents poured out of the stands. It's just a scene that's so rare, and most of us as athletes, we don't get to experience it. We don't get to win our entire division, put on jewelry at the end of the year, and really have our season stamped the way that the Sailors just did. And we always talk about it. Let's not forget, this was a 3-7 football team. This was a 1-5 football team through 6 games. At that point, they might be questioning themselves, saying, wow, I bought into a vision during fall camp, during spring ball, during the summer. I thought that if we worked and we stayed with our process, we would end with more wins. We would have a more successful season. What the heck happened? Those are the kind of things you might start to say to yourself at 3-7, but they find a way to get into the playoffs. Coach Lofthouse keeps this team engaged. The seniors, the leaders, stay encouraged, and from a sports perspective, these guys just changed their lives. McKay Ketchum, for example, went to sleep on Friday night hoping to have a good football game on Saturday, hopes his team gets a win. He goes to sleep on Saturday night an absolute Sailors legend. For the rest of his life, he has that play, that game-winning interception. Coach Lofthouse, now when he walks into a room, he's got a big CIF championship ring on, and you got to respect what he says. You have to understand that he knows how to get a team from a bad year, from a losing record, to continue to get better and win a championship. These are things that they really change your sports life. They change your confidence. They change the way you look at yourself, and the sports world looks at you, and that carries on to culture, changes a football program at Newport Harbor. I mean, this is just, I can't state enough how big this win is for everybody involved.
You brought up McKay Ketchum, and the sophomore had the game-sealing interception of Temecula Valley quarterback Zach Zella. Ketchum had missed the last few games with injuries. He finally got in the championship game, and he was absolutely ecstatic after the game, talking to our reporter, Taryn Rodriguez.
You won CIF, and it was an up-and-down season, but you are on top of the mountain. What is this feeling like for you?
I don't even know. I can't really breathe right now, and I'm just so excited. This is the first time I've played in a couple weeks because of concussion, so I'm just happy to be back and really excited to play and make a big play and win CIF.
So I guess it's time to run through the game and let you know what actually happened. As we said, McKay Ketchum had the game-sealing interception there late in the fourth quarter. As we said, the Sailors were down 21-0, 28-7 in the second quarter. They came back in the third quarter, tied it 28-28. Then Temecula Valley went back up 35-28. Sailors tie it back up. And then finally, with just over 3 minutes to go in the game, Henry Slater scores his second rushing touchdown of the evening to put the Sailors up for good, 42-35. Looking at the stats, A.J. Guitron-Moore, 4 touchdown passes. Ketchum Interview, 2 touchdown catches. Josiah Lamarque, 2 touchdown catches. And Henry Slater, 2 rushing TDs. Howard, it was just an amazing game from the Sailors.
I mean, so much happened. As you're running through that, I just want to stop and give everybody credit. And there's no way that we can. But, you know, what comes to mind for me is A.J. Guitron-Moore. What a game. He was so poised under pressure. He had a couple of balls, like the touchdown to Josiah. The pocket breaks down. AJ's about to take off. He's got some room. And last second, he realizes that Josiah's going to come open. He anticipates where the receiver's going to be, puts the ball on the money. And when the Sailors scored in the second quarter to make it 14-28, from that point on, they absolutely rolled. And Coach Lofthouse told us that, particularly in the second half, he felt every time his defense was going to get the big stop that they needed, and his offense was going to score every time that they touched the ball. I mean, other guys that I've got to give shout-outs to, Grayson Simon had a great game offensively and defensively. Josiah Lamarque and Ketchum Interview. I mean, if there was any question about it, who these guys were, there's no question anymore. These are absolute superstars. They put up like 10 touchdowns apiece in the playoffs. Cash had, 50 catches. It's just ridiculous. They lived up to their potential. They're who we thought they were. And I just keep saying it was a pleasure to watch.
And what a moment for the senior quarterback, A.J. Guitron-Moore, who was the JV starter last season, started the year as the third stringer. Our reporter, Taryn Rodriguez, caught up with him after the game, and he said he's been waiting his whole life for this moment.
It's just something, this is what I've been dreaming of as a kid. This is what I've been working my ass off for all 17 years of my life. I've been waiting for this moment, and, when preparation meets opportunity, you're successful.
You hear AJ say that he's been working his whole life for this moment, and you believe it when you see him play. You see the talent, you see the mind that he has for the game, and it's amazing that he didn't get varsity snaps before the end of his senior year because he's so accurate, for example, on a deep ball. Man, he puts it on the money when he's throwing it over the top. He knows when to go back shoulder if the defender has better position downfield than his receiver. And him and Cash together, I kept saying it on the broadcast, Alex, they make the defense wrong every time. You can't be right. You defend Cash one-on-one. You got A.J. Guitron-Moore throwing him the ball. There's almost no way to be right as a defender, and that's why these guys racked up the numbers that they did and put up 42 points in a championship game.
As a broadcaster, and Howard, we've been calling games for the Sailors for a couple seasons. As a broadcaster, you dream of the opportunity to call a championship game. You dream of calling an amazing comeback, a buzzer beater, a walk-off. We got to call a championship game with a 21-point comeback. Here's some of our highlights from the call on Tar Radio.
2 receivers on either side for A.J. Guitron-Moore out of shotgun. It's a pass, steps up, airs it out deep. Lamarque has a step on his defender, catches it at the 20, and darts into the end zone for a Sailors touchdown. 52 yards. Guitron-Moore to Lamarque, and the Sailors are 1 score away from tying this thing up.
That doesn't even make any sense. That was crazy.
3:45 to play, tied up at 28.
We need a surge out of this defensive line.
And obviously, Temecula Valley is going for it. It's a pitch out left side. Valencia in the backfield. He's hit. He stopped.
What an effort.
He stopped at the 1-yard line. The Sailors, they bend. They don't break. They are the bamboo. And it's a turnover on downs. Now Valencia swings out in motion. They pass it to Valencia. Oh, and he is hammered. Connor Chenier, shipwrecked. Guitron-Moore takes a snap. It's a pass. He looks deep. He tests the rocket launcher. Ketchum Interview is there. 50 yards to pay dirt. Touchdown, Sailors. Cash money. Inside 2 minutes to play. Sailors lead by 7. First down and 10 for Temecula Valley from the Sailors 28. Zella to pass over the middle.
That's it.
It's intercepted. McKay Ketchum's coming the other way with it. McKay Ketchum picks him off over the middle of the field.
That's game.
The biggest play of the sophomore career. Welcome to tar ball. The final snap has been taken. The knee is down. And they're partying on Irvine Avenue.
Wow.
They're dancing on the field here at Temecula Valley for the first time since 2005.
That's real joy right there. These guys, that is, man, they're excited.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Coach Peter Lofthouse era has begun.
Howard, it's the CIF Championship recap episode. We might as well shout out everybody we want to talk about. No need to leave any names off. I know we could talk about the entire Sailors roster, but I know you have some more guys you wanted to get into and give some credit for Saturday's big win.
Well, that's the thing. We can't shout out everybody. So literally every guy in a jersey, everybody involved had a piece of this championship, whether you're a starter or you're a scout team guy giving a look to the starters. But I got to give credit to Henry Slater and Hayden Farley. These guys put up, again, 100 yards as a unit, a couple of touchdowns. They did an excellent job of giving the offense what they needed on the ground. They've been a dynamic duo the last few weeks in the playoffs. And when they're on, that means we have to give credit to the offensive line. These guys faced a very tough D-line. There was a lot of resistance early on in the game, but the offensive line stayed strong and gave A.J. Guitron-Moore enough time and gave Slater and Farley the holes that they needed to run through. Also, got to give credit to Zach Zamora. Big catches over the middle, big blocker. Duke Starnes, always reliable, always in on the screen game, making sure he's opening holes for his guys as a blocker. So just an absolute team effort on offense. And for this team to put up 42 points in the final game, in the championship game, it really solidifies what me and you thought going into the year, Alex. I know a couple of times this season I might have been called a Sailors homer, but it's because we get to see this team week in, week out, and we know what they're capable of, and they finally showed it to us.
While we're here talking about the offense, we got to talk about the defense. The defense has been rock solid all season. Shout out to Coach Dondo, John Arredondo, who is the defensive coordinator for the Sailors. I mean, they were waiting for the offense to catch up to their production oftentimes this season. They came up big. I know Grayson Simon and Nate Peters had a huge second-half sack, and then Jacob Carlon, he had a sack that was one of the game-changing plays in this championship game. Our reporter, Taryn Rodriguez, caught up with the sophomore linebacker after the game.
Throughout everything we've been through, the COVID season and the season before the COVID season, a lot of players on our team played a lot of football. I played a lot of football. I think it's like coming up on like 29, almost like 30 games in 1 year. That's a lot of football. I think all the hard work we put in eventually pays off. And like, Coach got us a shirt, just go on the bus and finish. That's exactly what we did.
Well, you mentioned it, Alex, that the Carlon sack was one of the biggest plays of the game. And I said it on the broadcast pre-snap. I said the Sailors really need a sack right here. It's a lot to ask for, but the Sailors need a sack because where Temecula Valley was at on the field, it was 4-down territory. They weren't far enough back to punt, so they were probably going to go for it with the next 2 downs. The only way you stop them from going for it on 4th down is you back them up and make it 4th and unmanageable, and that's what Jacob Carlon did. He came off the edge, he beat the blocker, stayed with the quarterback, and got a huge sack that changed the game for his team because if you remember after that sack, Josiah gets a punt return that he takes to the house, gets called back, but still the Sailors are set up on the 50-yard line, and at that point, that's too good a field position to give the Sailors when the offense is clicking like that. So Jacob Carlon had the play of his life, a game-changing sack when his team needed it the most. You mentioned Grayson Simon and Nate Peters. I also said on the broadcast, these 2 guys deserve a share of whatever MVP trophy comes from the playoffs because not just in the finals, but those 2 guys throughout the playoffs have gotten pressure on the quarterback by themselves without Harbor having to send extra bodies. They've just beat their man one-on-one. Nate Peters, he had a huge 2nd down tackle for loss. It was 2nd and 1. Nate Peters had a big TFL, made it like 3rd and 7, 3rd and difficult. These are plays that absolutely changed the game. And if you remember early in the first quarter, Temecula Valley was dominating up front, running with Zach Zella, a power run from the quarterback, and there was nothing Harbor could do to stop it. But when the D-line came on in the second quarter, started shedding their blocks, They forced Temecula Valley to go away from the run, forced them to be a passing team, and from that point on, the Temecula Valley offense stalled. So these guys on defense got everything started, and the offense answered.
Howard, I want to talk about the Sailors' defensive backs as well because they had their hands full. Temecula Valley, their receiving core, they have athletes led by Sam Batu, who's going to be playing at Air Force next year. And a lot of times, there was one-on-one coverage. Billy Ridley, Johnny Checks, they were matched up with Batu. Yes, he had a 65-yard touchdown, but for the most part, they kept him quiet. He could score from anywhere on the field, and he has oftentimes this season. So shout out to John Arredondo for trusting his DBs, and shout out to those Sailors DBs for really stepping up to the plate, especially in the second half.
And we can't shout out the DBs without talking about Carson Diavola.
Of course.
You know, he's the leader of the defense. He didn't have a big interception to get his name in lights, but he was all over the run game. As we know, he's always up in the box, blowing stuff up, pursuing to the ball, had a ton of tackles, was in the double digits, just did what he was supposed to do like he always does. And this defense did what they became known for, which is swarm to the ball and get the offense out of their comfort zone. We saw it at Santa Barbara. We saw it at Dominguez. Now we see it at Temecula Valley. Make the offense adjust. Make them do what they don't want to do, which is throw the ball, and you've got an opportunity to win the game.
That's exactly what happened. Sailors won 42-35. They're going to have to paint on the weight room wall another CIF title, the fourth in school history, the fourth in 90 years, the first since 2005. And I just want to go back to put a bow on this show, Howard. Something you were talking about earlier, the potential for this to be a culture-changing win. Like you said, now, when Coach Lofthouse says something, when he asks the team to buy in, when the senior leaders ask the team to buy in, the younger guys, the guys on the team that maybe haven't won a ring, the new guys coming in, well, they have to buy in because it worked. And so I do think that this is a culture-changing win. Let's hear from Coach Lofthouse. He spoke about this win and the adversity the Sailors faced after the game when he talked to our reporter, Taryn Rodriguez.
Right now, I'm just so proud of our players, our coaching staff, and the entire program as a whole. I mean, to face so much adversity in the football game and then to overcome that adversity and be able to put such a great effort on the field in the second, third, and fourth quarter and to finish it off with a win is just a tremendous feeling.
Well, this win certainly has big picture implications for the Sailors. There's no way around it. You know, think about the kids on the freshman team at Newport Harbor or even the sophomores here. That they're coming to a program where their rival across town, Corona Del Mar, just won a CIF championship a few years ago when they were in middle school, just won a state championship a few years ago. So they're coming to Newport Harbor, and maybe they're a little intimidated looking across the bay at those guys who have a championship culture at Corona Del Mar. Well, now at Newport Harbor, the Sailors have that as well. They can point to their rings. They can point to not just their rings, not just the end result, but the process, what it looked like to build a team, to build a culture, to learn how to win, to go through adversity, to persevere, to be down early in a game but not get rattled, to continue to trust the process. These are things that everyone talks about. Every football program, every organization talks about having that kind of attitude and that kind of mentality, but now the Sailors can point to the end result of those things. So if you didn't believe it before, if you didn't believe in the culture, if you didn't believe in the process and getting on board, now you have something tangible to point to that says, look, this is why you trust our process. This is why you work like a Newport Harbor Sailor, because if you do, here's what you can get at the end of the year. And that's what this win does for the team, for the program. Everybody involved I want to give credit to. Coach Lofthouse, Dr. Murray, the AD, Dr. Bolton, the principal, Jason Levin, Booster Club president, all the parents, all the assistant coaches, and of course, the players. Everybody involved deserves so much credit, and, you know, the 2021 football season was a success.
Rachel Cassis, the trainer, Ryan O'Donnell, the equipment manager, Eddie Steele, the strength and conditioning coach, and just to put punctuation mark on what you were saying, Coach Steele, Newport Harbor strength and conditioning coach, he always says lock in, hashtag lock in. Well, now it's more than just a hashtag. They locked in, they won a title, and that's what wins like this, like you said, we saw Dan O'Shea and the CDMC Kings do it in 2019, and we always talk about their culture. Well, now Coach Lofthouse is building his own culture on Irvine Avenue, and that's big for the Sailors. What a win, and they're not done yet. We believe at the time this episode airs, we might know, but They should be in the state playoffs, so we'll see what happens there. We might have another preview and recap show coming up for Newport Harbor on Sunset Rewind. Take a second, if you haven't yet, follow us on social media. You should by now if you're watching this episode at sunset_rewind, sunsetrewind.com, our website powered by GoldenCom. We thank them for all they do for all the players, parents, and coaches in the Sunset League. For my broadcast partner, Howard Kroom, this is Alex Crawford saying, from the 405 to PCH, from Saddleback to the Pacific Ocean, you've been watching Sunset Rewind. Thanks for tuning in.